Okay, so before I need to head off for work, I want to show you how I edit photos. So I'm going to show you how to take an ordinary photo like this and turn it into a Blade Runner cyberpunk looking edit like this. Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm not a professional at editing at all. So this tutorial is just more to showcase what I use, how I use it, and why I use it. So let's jump into Lightroom and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I've opened up my photo in Lightroom, and the first thing I generally look at would be the basic editing area, which is just at the top here. First thing I'm going to do is decrease the temperature to bring out more of the blues, so that's looking pretty good there. And then I'm going to increase my exposure just a bit to see some details. About there's good. And I'm going to increase my contrast just to give a bit detail. Okay, so now my highlights and shadows. So what I do with my highlights is that I'm going to decrease them, and then I'm going to lift my shadows so I can see a bit more detail. And then with my whites and blacks, I'm going to bring those back to add more contrast. So with blacks, I bring that more to black, and then whites add a bit more white. And I'm going to increase my vibrance to be about there. So the next thing I do is usually I go all the way down to calibrations. So firstly I'm going to go around with blues, see what looks good. Purple's looking pretty good, but I want to go a bit more of a neon cyberpunk kind of thing. So for me, that's about there. And then for greens, maybe just a bit. And then reds, nothing changes too much, so I might go about there. And then after that I go all the way back up to the tone curves, do my usual tone curve adjustment, just like that, adding an S curve, lifting the shadows just a bit to add a little fade. Done. Now that's 3 steps so far, and if I hit backslash on my keyboard I can see the before and after. You can already see the photos looking very different. So with just a tiny bit of editing already, you can see a big difference in the way it looks. And for me, the neon cyber look is something that I want to really emphasize in this photo. Okay, so the next step is going to be colors, and I'm going to be playing around a lot with it to make it more neon cyberpunk. So there's 3 different sections to each color, which is hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue is the color variance, saturation is how strong the color is going to be, and luminance is how bright your color is going to show. So for red, I generally want to be a bit more pink, so I'm going to bring it down maybe about there. It's looking pretty strong, so I want to bring it back a bit, and a little bit bright, so I'll take it down a notch. And then for orange, I can know that it's about this one and maybe the front of this church, so I'm going to bring that all the way down to red, but it looks really strong, so I'm going to just take it out completely and probably darken it all the way. And maybe the same with yellow, because it's not really going to do too much to this photo for me. And then the next part is going to be greens, and I'm probably going to drag it more to the aquas, but I'm going to take away the greens completely in saturation because I want to emphasize more of that concrete jungle kind of no nature look, and completely maybe darken it. And then aquas, similar to blues, so I might bring it out more to the aqua side, not too blue. Okay, so now the photo is predominantly blue, so no matter what I do in this blue area, it's going to affect pretty much the entire image. So if I went all the way to the left, you're going to see it go really green, and then all the way to the right go really purple. So for me, neon cyberpunk I guess would be a bit more towards the aqua area, and that's looking pretty cool already. And then I'm gonna go maybe decrease the saturation a bit and then increase the luminance. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Purples, maybe emphasize, adds a bit more of a pink to it. Decrease, increase. Magentas, same thing, gonna go with the red, and then there, ooh, maybe a bit darker. Yep. Okay, now split toning. Split toning is basically adjusting a color to highlights and shadows. I generally don't do this too much, but for this one, I might play it around with a bit. Might go pink highlights, especially the lights down here and up here. It's still going to be pretty blue up here anyway, and then with shadows give it a bit more of a blue tint. That's looking pretty good. And now detailing is a very important part because you don't want your photo to be showing too much, but at the same time you also want it to be looking as good as you want. So for me, I generally add my sharpening to about 75 with the radius of 0.7 and detailing around 8 to 10, and then masking around 75 to whatever. Mainly because I don't want too much detail in the photo, but at the same time I want to make sure my outlines are strong. And with noise reduction, I'm able to take away obviously the noise if I'm shooting at a high ISO. So that looks good, and then color, just flatten out those colors to make it not so different. That's looking good. And now lens corrections. Lens corrections is basically making sure the photo looks the way it should. So if you notice it with it on and off, you see it stretching a bit, but this is just flattening it out. And then I'm going to put back my vignettes, turn chromatic aberrations on. That's looking good. Now with transform, it's basically obviously warping the photo to make it look the way you want it to look. So I might do that, but also make sure I constrain the crop. It's looking good. And add a bit more of a vignette. There we go. And there we go. That's pretty much what you want in the photo. And any final parts, you would generally crop your photo to the way you want. Remove any details that might be distracting to the photo, and then for this photo I might add a few filters. So I might make the bottom part a bit more pink, mainly add to like that neon look, and then just to bring out the subject, which looks like this top building here, and a lot of the bright light is coming from that top building area. So I might invert first and then increase the brightness to make sure the light's coming from that building, and then I'll duplicate that, uninvert it, and then make the outside area darker so it looks like that area is pretty much the main light source. And there we go. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you learned something, and if not, maybe found it interesting. But yeah, don't forget to give this video a big ass thumbs up. Subscribe if you want, and definitely leave a comment down what you would do. Maybe you would have done something with editing the colors, or even how you shoot the photo itself. And as for the winner of the giveaway that I talked about last week, I sent you a DM on Instagram. But if you didn't get a DM from me, unfortunately you didn't win. But feel free to send me a DM anyway, and maybe we can work something out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.